Just
It might be a little bit more than normal, but it's not too far off. That's why I usually take the train, but
Yeah.
I had
the
to
sil-
drive today.
no, the silver snail.
You're right.
Hello,
Gee.
everyone.
Hi, Giselle.
Al, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Good. Hi, Giselle.
Good evening, Ron.
Good evening to you. And happy solstice, I guess.
That's right, the days are getting longer already, right?
I hadn't noticed, Mr. Chairman.
No, I hadn't either, but that's what they tell me.
Yeah,
It was a
I'll
10
believe them.
Good evening, Joe.
Hey, Ron, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, very good.
Good evening, Dr. Hay.
Hi, Ron. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
No one's
You too.
on mute.
Good evening, Carol.
Is she the one in charge of snow for Christmas?
I wish I had had that control.
What is going on with this thing? I can't believe this thing.
Who's talking?
Hi, Marlene.
Hi, I don't know why it wouldn't even come on.
You're okay now.
I'm finally here.
Well, we're waiting for what I can see here, Elliot and Joel. Hello, Elliot.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And I think our last attendee will be Joel, who's, I believe, planning to attend. I hope he is.
Everything's a little slow. I don't know why.
I'm stopping my video while I sip my coffee.
I'll do the same.
And I'm not on video because I'm on I-95 and it's dark and wouldn't want you to be looking at my nose because that's not pleasant for anybody.
Please drive carefully.
Yes, focus on your driving.
You know, not much is going to happen at 2 miles an hour.
Oh, you're stuck in traffic?
The nightmare they call 95.
I'll give it another couple of minutes only because I know Jim has to leave us at 7. Joe, is there any way you could reach out to Joel?
I'm doing it right now.
10 days.
He said yes, so I'm sure he'll be on in a moment.
Aaron, I got your email. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome, Marlene. Thank you.
While we're waiting for Joel, I wanted to say congratulations to Carol and Ron, Peter on their elevation to the full commission last night at the selectmen's meeting. So congratulations to you folks.
Yes,
And-
congratulations.
And I also would like to congratulate Elliot on his reappointment, but also for a second reason, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Is it
Hey, happy
29?
birthday and
Oh, wow.
congratulations,
Happy
everybody.
birthday.
Are you 29, Elliot?
Roughly.
Me too.
Jack
Me
Randy,
too.
39.
Well, I'm sorry you're celebrating in this kind of fashion, but hopefully I'll get a chance to do something later or over the weekend.
Well, a few years ago, we had a very long marathon session on the night of my birthday where I think we left the town hall at just about midnight. So it will be done a little bit sooner tonight.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Ron,
And
Joel said he's having computer issues and that's why he's not on yet. He's working on it.
Okay. Well, let's give him this is challenging.
Oh, it looks like Joel's here.
Good. You with us, Joel?
Sorry about that. I was having some glitchiness.
Quite all right. Glad you made it. Well, we have one item obviously on our agenda tonight. We're in deliberations for application 21-23 CSP, 92 Scotland Avenue, map 39, lot 37 in the R2 district. The owner applicant is 92 Scotland Avenue LLC. It's a site plan review application for proposed affordable housing development under Connecticut General Statutes 830G to construct 6 residential housing units and associated site improvements. Application also includes a coastal site plan review. So before we proceed, Joe, you were not at the last meeting. Did you have an opportunity to review the videotape and the minutes of the meeting and feel prepared to participate tonight?
I did. I read all 12 or 13 pages or so, and I spent the last 2.5 hours or so watching the the video on YouTube.
Okay. And the only member missing is John Mathers. I don't see John on the screen.
I happened to run into John in town today,
Uh-huh.
and I know he told me he really wanted to join tonight, but he has family from out of town visiting.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to be on the meeting.
No, he had indicated that he would not be here. So, Peter, by virtue of the fact that you sat last week, but also I think it's important that you're our affordable housing representative, that you continue to sit. And after discussions with legal counsel in a sensitive environment like this, it was suggested that anyone not participating, those who are unseated, turn off their microphones and turn off their video and just watch for some case law reasons that I don't quite understand, but that's the way it works. So we'll miss Carol and we'll miss Ron on the screen, and I'm sorry about that, but that's process. So before we continue, we took a straw poll kind of last week, and I think it was unanimous. Joe, I'll let you. Joe, let me start. You didn't get a chance to chime in, and you've seen the tape and what the other commissioners thought.
Yep.
So to round it out, I'd like, your opinion is where you stand at the moment. I think that would be helpful.
So by nature of brevity, I'm certainly not going to repeat items that were discussed over and over again, but I did take some notes of some of the things that stuck out to me. I was thoroughly impressed with Ms. Hunter's dissertation. I know that much of it, or some of it anyway, was inconsequential, and her hands are tied on some of the rationales that she raised. I understand some of the points that, again, are out of our purview to consider, like setting precedent. I know that Francine Larson brought up some really good points that that stuck out in my mind. I really liked the piece brought up by Alex Province regarding with such density, such incredible density that this town has never seen before, is emergency response potentially an issue? Some of the issues that were raised regarding.
Bill, we're a little pressed for time because Jim has to leave. Where do you sit on the issue, I think is what.
I thought you were looking for my thoughts. On the issue, I'm thoroughly against it because I think it is far, far, far too dense for the site. I think it's inappropriately dense. I can elaborate further as to why I think that. And
well, we're going to be having a conversation, but just trying to get to know, what direction you were coming, as I think we tried to do last week.
My primary issue is the density. I think the third bedroom is a joke. I think that's there for monetary reasons. I think if there were less units that were slightly larger and more habitable, that would make more sense.
Okay. Thank you. So I think everybody kind of shared their view of the world as they see it. Since last week, I've had as we all have, a great deal of time to think and look at, review the record, review 30G, and do some research. And I think in an effort to make sure we have our eyes wide open as a commission, and also maybe to help the public better understand what we're dealing with. 830G strips away a huge amount of the normal metrics and measurements we'd use on an application, including density, including setbacks, including all these. The only thing that we can use to base our judgment on are two things: public safety and health. Aesthetics, as I said, density and all those issues. We have no 30G usurps, takes that all that power away from us, puts us in handcuffs for those issues. So what we're dealing with tonight, and I'd like to end with a discussion about this. Not a debate, but a discussion, conversation. We're faced obviously with simply two alternatives: to approve or deny, or deny or approve with conditions, as we've talked about at some length. The problem I see, and I've done quite a bit to look through this, is if we were to just deny the application, which would be the easy thing to do. It wouldn't be good for affordable housing, which is what one of our objectives is. But that aside, we would, I would say, have a very, very difficult time looking to the record, which is the only place anybody can look to make a judgment, and find substantial health or public safety issues that would be upheld on appeal. For example, we talked about traffic and public safety. There is not a shred of evidence in the record from an expert that says there is a traffic problem. You have a traffic engineer submitted information and says there isn't. We do have anecdotal information on the record, but that's all it is. It is not anything a judge in reviewing the case would look for substantial information on the record to base his decision on that. Health, I know this, we had concerns about, primarily, as I recall, about septic. And aside from being out of our purview, directly anyway, the applicant has received preliminary approval for the septic system from the town and is in the process of obtaining the next sign off, which is at the state level. If they don't receive it, everything's goes away anyway. But I don't see it in my mind as a substantial issue. The alternative to that, of course, is, and the other thing to mention, don't let me forget, is if we deny, and this does happen that it's overturned, what is approved is the original application as it was submitted. No conditions, no improvements that ACA negotiated, no impervious sidewalks, no lighting, no variation in the units. What was applied for is what is approved by the court, which is not necessarily a good thing. And when you think about some of the conditions that we had talked about. So what are we faced with? There's an alternative. Well, obviously an approval, but with an approval, and we can discuss, the whole, or have a conversation about what conditions we might want to apply in an approval, and somehow minimize the the impact of the project on the neighborhood, whether it be in terms of number of units, lighting, landscaping, personality of the buildings themselves, and those types of things. Those types of conditions could be included in an approval. But on a denial that's overturned by the court, what we first saw is what we get. And I don't know, I think that's something we have to seriously have a conversation about, is what is the right and the best thing to do. The easy thing to do is say, hey, let the courts take care of it. But I don't think that's fair either. I think we have to give it a good vetting on our end and see if we can arrive at consensus as how this application ends tonight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Ron,
It does.
what is the degree of conditions that we can put on the application, given that it's an 830G? I mean, how many conditions can we really apply?
I don't think there's a number, Doctor. I think first off, they have to be reasonable. And secondly, I have to also say that if it was approved by us with whatever the condition, that they could go to court and challenge all the conditions or some of the conditions. But I think it's much more reasonable to assume that if we have reasonable conditions that are part of an approval, that they'd be there's a number of them they've already agreed to, but all bets are off with the denial. So I don't have a good answer for that in terms of number, but I certainly can't think a condition of approval in the extreme would be no units, or one unit. So someplace in between. And we did have a number of them we had discussed before the hearing closed.
So Ron,
Yes.
well, I didn't mean to cut you off. Maybe I can provide some feedback to what you're saying. I've also thought about this. I've gone through and reviewed 830G again, looked at the what you can and can't do, looked at the application, looked at the areas that I was most concerned about when I voiced my view to disapprove this application. And I think over the course of the past, not quite a week here, I've come to the conclusion that I would now support the application. However, I would really like to at least have conditions that include the things that the applicant had agreed to in our conversations. For example, the ACA improvements to the appearance. I think they agreed to hard pave the walkways, anything that had to do with that. I think they might have also made some agreements on some lighting, although I can't recall for sure. But anyway, I would, given that and given what you said and what I've read and so forth, is I think at this point, what I would do is vote to approve it. I would like to see the conditions in it that just revoice what they had agreed to when we had our conversations.
I agree.
Some of the areas that I was concerned about was traffic. In 830G, even traffic considerations really don't play much of a role. And I don't really think that there really is truly a traffic problem, or will be there anyway. My concern over health had to do with the septic. And again, like you said, that's out of our control. Obviously, if the state comes back and says it's not adequate, then that's the end of it anyway. So I just wanted to give you maybe some feedback that is along with what you said and where I would see this going.
And Ron, this is
Ron,
this is Tom. I've done the same thing. I think it was wise to, I'd call it a cooling off period. because obviously emotions ran high in the public hearing, and I think it's easy to get caught up in that, but then neglect looking at what the law is and what the risks are if we deny. And like Jim, after I've kind of sat back and reflected and reviewed the material and reviewed the state statute, I'm also inclined to support it, because I think there's less risk for the town in supporting it than in denying it and then having the court come in and say the original application is approved. So I think moving forward with the conditions that have already been agreed upon provides the best fit that we can, given the state statute. I would say, there's a couple of reasons why I would maybe like to see it reduced to 5 units versus versus 6. And some of it has to do with just, snow removal and if the snow ended up not being taken off site, even though the applicant said, well, that's the way commercial people do it, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. If they plow out into Scotland Road, it can narrow the road at a critical point. I'd feel a little bit better if there was more space on site for this, storing the snow. But I'm also okay if we end up approving the application as we've already negotiated so far. And that's it for me.
Yeah. Ron, it's
Peter, you had your hand.
Yeah, I there's not much I can add to what Jim and Tom said. I agree. When you sit back and start to think about where we came out from a week ago to now, and you look at 830G, there isn't a lot of flexibility. I would say last week we had a draft resolution from Aaron that I think talked about several of the items that the applicant had agreed to already. And I guess the only thing that I would want to caveat and still have a further discussion on, and Tom just alluded to it, is the fact that, is there an opportunity to have slightly less density here than was originally proposed? If you went from 6 to 5 units, you put yourself in a position of obviously just having less units, just less space. You make more room available for additional parking. You lessen the burden on off-street parking. All of those things potentially, and obviously the applicant could say no, but to the extent they have a desire to be sort of a good neighbor, that's something that perhaps we want to consider putting in there.
Thank you, Peter. Joel? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, there we go. So I have a slightly different take, right? And I've spent a lot of time looking at 830G and looking at the application. And while this is my last deliberation after 12 years on this commission, I can't really falter on the responsibilities the town has entrusted me with. And I'm obligated actually to discharge my duties with fidelity through the end of my term. And this deliberation that we're engaged in is probably one of the most important I've participated in over the years, and really have to carefully consider the data, the information, the commentary that we've received throughout the public hearing, and apply that toward 830G, right? So last week, just about everyone stated support for affordable housing. And while the town really, we're not a poster child for affordability, the record shows that this commission has been proactive in adopting regulations intended to promote responsible affordable development. And our record of approving affordable developments is strong. We can't create applications, so we can really only review what we receive, but we have a record of approving them as they come before us. And I think there's a misconception over our autonomy and our self-determination when we're reviewing 830G applications, and that our hands are tied. That's not really that accurate, right? The whole purpose of our residential zoning regulations are for the safety and health and protection of the local street characteristics, the use and protection of our private water and sewer facilities, level of other public services of these areas, and that protection is essential to the maintenance of a balanced community and sound residential areas of diverse types. 830G tells us that we have to demonstrate that our decision is necessary to protect substantial public interest in health, safety, and other matters which the commission may legally consider. And that it is fairly subjective, and it's a subjective burden to meet. But we do have our affordability chapter, chapter 26 in our regs, that sets the standards by which we're held in deciding, on a zone change under these regulations, which is we have the site plan, but remember, a zone change comes with this site plan, right? We're putting a zone in place for this particular property. So section 26 lists 3 areas that we should look at: 26.1, 0.2, 0.3, right? I think 26.6.2 is the one that I think is relevant here. That's the one over property values, which we define as the probable effect on the enjoyment, usefulness, and value of the premises in the general neighborhood. Scotland Avenue slopes from Railroad Avenue down to Route 1. And as it is, the coverage for the zone is 29,000, I think 2,998 square feet. And that's based on a 40,000 square foot lot size. The proposed coverage is 4,000 square feet on a 20,000 square foot lot. That's 33% more coverage on 50% less land. And here's why it's relevant. The site plan, part of the record, clearly shows the contours sloping from the apex of the proposed site to the adjacent property to the south, which is J.C. Field, right? So that abutting town property is thickly wooded at the property line, right? And that site slopes down to the field. And when it gets to the field, we've all seen it, right? It drops a good, probably 8 feet plus or minus, by my eyes. We've all probably stood there and we've seen that there's that bluff that runs along the field there. Right in the middle of that bluff, kind of between the concession stand and the nearest fence, there's significant erosion. And that's coming out of this thickly wooded area, between 92 Scotland and J.C. Field. And that's with just the single house and barn and one septic system on it. And if you look up that gully from the field, it's clear. It's a straight, direct line of sight right to the house on 92 Scotland, right? So the data that's been submitted as part of the record gives me the confidence that this development will significantly exacerbate that erosion and further harm J.C. Field and create a negative impact to the usefulness and enjoyment of that parcel that's used and enjoyed by thousands each year. And our cover standards are in place to prevent this kind of impact and shouldn't be regarded relative to this site plan. The likelihood of impact to the adjacent lot, it's more than a theoretical possibility. It's a likelihood of specific harm to the public interest. That's the way I interpret the data that we've received. And if you're a little confused about the proposed setbacks I mentioned relative to the site plan, that's because what's in the site plan is not what's being proposed under the regulations, right? The regulation change gives even more flexibility than what's demonstrated on the site plan. So the existing lot size is, just shy of 22,000 square feet. It's, I think, 21,946 square feet. That's in the 40,000 square foot zone. That's also what's proposed on the site plan, but the proposed regulations 20,000 square feet. The site plan has 3,700 some odd square feet of coverage, but the regulation changes 4,000 square feet of coverage, right? So that's that 33% increase on 50% less land. All of the setbacks that are shown on the site plan are even less on the regulation change. So we need to be cognizant of that, right? That pattern can, I think it's like 11.6 feet of a front setback on the plan. It's 19 feet existing and 40 feet is the regulation, and the change reg proposed is 10 feet, right? So there's inconsistencies with what's in the reg change and what's on the site plan. And, that pattern continues with every single setback that's shown on the site plan is even further reduced in the regulation change. I just want everyone to realize that you're being asked to approve standards that are even further from our existing standards and what's shown on the site plan. And the setbacks in the proposed regs need to be conditioned and restricted as well. Now, whether these issues are significant enough to outweigh the need for affordable housing is subjective, but they certainly outweigh the need for this proposed site plan. Right, the developer could have proposed a duplex with one or both units as affordable, and that would have been a higher ratio than the current proposal. They could have also proposed 3 small houses with 1, 2, or all 3 as affordable, and at a minimum, that would be the same ratio as proposed, but in a more responsible way. And at the most would have been a genuine attempt to increase the affordable housing inventory in town. In fact, I'd be more compelled to approve one of those scenarios where what we have here is just max effort to put as many market rate units on the lot as possible. The other affordable applications that we've approved have been responsible. They've been respectful of the built and the natural environments that they're either proposed in or adjacent to. And this application, in my opinion, is egregious, and I can't support it for the public interest concern I raised. And I think it's important for the commission to note that 830G states that following a decision by a commission to reject an affordable housing application or to approve an application with restrictions which have substantial adverse impact on the viability of the affordable housing development or the degree of affordability of the affordable dwelling units, the applicant may, within a period, they can file for an appeal of such decision and submit to the commission proposed modifications of its proposal, responding to some or all of the objections and the restrictions that are articulated by us. And that would be treated as an amendment to the original proposal. So I would recommend that we either reject the site plan outright because of the impact it's going to have to the adjacent lot, or we approve it with, I've heard 5, I would say 3 to 4 units, but maintain the 2 affordable units. And they can come back with something that's more responsible and more to the intent of affordable housing initiatives through the appeal process I mentioned. I would find it hard to believe that 2 market rate, if it went to 4, 2 market rate and 2 affordable would lessen the financial viability of it. Might lessen the profit potential, but I can't imagine a scenario in which 2 and 2 would make it financially unviable, and it does nothing to change the affordable housing availability or the affordability of the units that are there, right? It's still the same formula. It's still the same ratios.
Okay. So you haven't given this any thought, Joel. Is that what you're telling us?
I'm just, spitballing. I'm just spitballing.
So thank you for that very much. What's anybody else kind of rattling around in their head? Again, this is a conversation. It's not necessarily a, we're not calling for a vote, but trying to get some thoughts on what our options are and the best way to pursue it. I mean, to make modifications, a couple of thoughts about reducing the number of units and so on. But one thing I will say, Joel, and again, I don't want to debate, but much of the things you present about setbacks and all are not germane whatsoever. That's built into the set of handcuffs that we're wearing.
No, Ron. The reason why I mentioned all that is because we need to be cognizant that if we approve the site plan, that's a different demonstrated set of setbacks than what's in the zoning reg. So if we're going to condition the site plan, we need to condition the proposed zoning reg.
I won't play lawyer, but what I'm saying is that things like setbacks are taken out of our hands. Those regs are not applicable.
Well, except where they impact the public.
No, I'm not going to cut you off. I don't want to debate it either. I'd like to hear a few more, and then you can continue. I certainly want you to speak your mind and your piece. Certainly. Anyone else?
I just have another question, Ron, and I don't know if anybody will know the answer to this, but if we come back to the applicant with our set of conditions, do we just have till the 26th or whatever the final date was on, or maybe it was the 24th? I can't remember to
It's a
resolve
good-
this.
We cannot come back to the applicant at all. The hearing is closed. We cannot share any information with the applicant or the public. So what
Right.
we're doing here now is the right now, but these conditions, if we were to put them into an approval, as Joel, I think eloquently pointed out, what the steps could be if they disagree with any of those conditions, they could appeal them and then come back to us to work it out. But, it could not be negotiated on the fly, irregardless of the deadline of the 29th.
Right. So it's a little bit of a figuring out what would be, I guess we all have to sort of decide what would be where that line is for all of us in terms of this application and whether we're willing to accept, most of what they have agreed to already as reasonable and move on from there, or gamble a little bit that we ask for more and potentially have it appealed, right? That's sort of what we're figuring out right now. Is that right?
Part of it appealed, correct. I mean, they could appeal, respect, Lord, I'm no lawyer, but the color of the doors, remember, or the siding on the buildings, they were amenable to that. But any condition that we might impose on an approval, is subject to litigation if they choose to do it. I don't think they've signed their John Hancock's on landscaping. They talk about they'll do it and give us a plan kind of thing. But I don't think they're obligated absolutely to do it. If they object to doing it, they can appeal. Am I correct, Aaron? Do you have any input on that? Or any thoughts?
Sure. I think, as you indicated, Ron, that the applicant on the record had agreed to certain suggestions that the commission had requested or recommended. But yes, you do have the ability to put some of those recommendations as modifications, should you wish to move in that direction with modify and approve resolution.
Thank you. Does that help out at all, Doctor? Thank you. Who haven't kind of shared an opinion on?
I'd like to go, Giselle.
Okay, Giselle.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, is maybe is to start with some modifications. But I have a question. Were we supposed to have like an attorney tonight? I don't know why I was thinking that, like some counsel, or no? Am I not right?
No, and there's a reason behind it. As a layman, I can explain it the best I can. If we had a town attorney, for example, with us tonight, they would, in fact, be giving us the commission, and hence the town, legal advice. And I don't think it's good form or practice to have our attorney giving us legal advice and direction and giving his opinion on what's good, what's bad, in front of opposing counsel. I just don't think it works that way. And I can't ask Attorney Casella, but I think he knows what I mean, that their thoughts representing us as the commission and the town should be made to their client and not to the client and potentially the opposition in a legal matter. So that's why we don't have them with us tonight. It's just not the right place to do it. It would be handy though, wouldn't it? I mean, I know where you're coming from. There's a couple questions or points that Joel brought up.
Are you talking about the applicant attorney?
No, you were talking about our attorney.
Yeah,
right?
okay. So just making sure we're on the same page. Okay.
I hope that makes sense. Anybody else? Spin it around a little bit. Elliot, I know it's your birthday, but still.
Well, I don't know, I thought, listening to everything that Joel brought up, I could definitely lean towards, or not lean towards, fully agree with most of what he said. And, if we could do a condition where we lower it down to like 4 units and 2 of them remain affordable, I think that's something that I would be more inclined to be in favor of. And the only other condition, or a couple of the other conditions that I was thinking would be, regarding safety, would be something with the lighting to be more permanent rather than the solar lighting, because, anybody who's bought any kind of solar lights for landscape lighting, they last about a season or 2 and then they no longer work. And I'm in the solar field and know that that type of lighting is not going to be permanent and long-term. And if you're going to excavate the property to build these units, it would be the time to do some kind of permanent wiring rather than coming back in a couple of years to start excavating, to run wiring, to do proper lighting for a complex such as this. On their lighting plan, there was many dark areas in the driveway, the sidewalks, in front of the buildings, which I find definitely to be a safety concern for the residents living in the complex. And then the only other point that kind of stuck with me was what Joe had mentioned about what Alex Province said regarding the EMS response, and with the density of the property and the small parking lot and their ability to respond to any kind of emergency on site.
Okay,
About all I have.
thank you. More on the conversation. Jim, I know you have to leave. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think I'd already said it.
Okay, nothing to add. Aaron, you're familiar with the zoning I know you haven't been here a long time, but you live in the world of setbacks and those types of things. Any reaction to Joel's thoughts about the setbacks proposed, the setbacks actual? Maybe familiar what they
Yes.
are.
And let me just clarify that maybe that I understood you correctly, Joel, in your explanation. Were you referring specifically the difference between the setbacks proposed on the site plan versus the setbacks that were proposed as an addendum to that affordability plan, that one was more or one was less restrictive than the other? And you were looking for consistency between the two?
Yeah, I'll give you a specific example, right? So the applicant's required to present proposed zone changes, right, for this, because it's something that doesn't exist, right? So they have to do that under 830G.
The bulk standards you're referring to.
Right. So
Yep.
the existing lot size is 21,946 square feet, right? So their site plan shows that they're going to use all 21,946, but they're reducing the standards to 20,000, which has really no applicability on this site. So why is there they can't answer, right? But I don't think there should be a disparity, especially with something like that, right? Why would we have a standard for 20,000 square feet on a lot that's almost 22,000 square feet? Just make it consistent.
Okay, so versus it's less restrictive what their standard is than what they're proposing, essentially allowing for perhaps an ability to have additional structure coverage in the future. So, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of.
So that's another thing, right? So So what's shown on the site plan is coverage of 3,764 square feet. That's on chart 4. But what they're submitting for standards is 4,000 square feet, right? So just the basis of, most of what we're looking at in our approval is this site plan. Let's just get those numbers consistent with each other, right? Because what happens is if something changes, right, we no longer really have a lot of sway in that, oh, well, we're going to actually, this building's actually going to be this much bigger, and you approve that. That was, we can go up to 4,000 square feet of coverage, right? Let's make things consistent with what we're looking at and what we're going to approve. And we need to adjust it appropriately if we're going to approve this with modifications or conditions of fewer buildings, right? So we're gonna have to sit down and do some math here.
That's an excellent point, Joel.
And I'm a communication major. You don't want me doing the math, but we're gonna have to do some math.
Aaron, your reaction as the,
That was my understanding of what you had indicated. I think I wasn't clear if you were referencing our current zoning standards or what the applicant was proposing. So I think you did clarify that for all of us. Ron, did you have a follow-up question to that, or we're understanding that yes, there are differences in numbers between what's shown on the site plan and what the essentially the maximum bulk standards that are proposed in their regulations.
well, this is the point, to get back to what Giselle said. I wish we had a lawyer. But that was never pointed out or mentioned or covered on the record. So I think that that presents.
Well, Ron, it's submitted as part of the record, right? Those zoning reg changes are in the record in their application.
But
right?
they should have,
so the site plan.
they should have had a chance to rectify them and point it out to them before the record closed.
But if we're going to make a modification, we can do that.
I mean, as a condition of approval?
Yeah.
Okay.
That can be modification number 1.
Aaron, how does that strike you?
The commission can add modifications to the approval. So for instance, if as Joel had indicated, if there was an elimination of a dwelling unit, then the applicant shall modify the calculations for bulk standards to reflect the removal of that structure. Essentially, the lot coverage is the calculation that you mentioned, Joel.
Let's square up for you, Joel. Okay. Well, let me ask you, Aaron, how do you think we should proceed with this? Should we talk about, a motion? Unless people have more comments and want to discuss this, our options. But to get an idea what direction we want to go in, which type of a decision we're going to make, and then act in filling in the blanks.
Sure. If the commission is agreeable or commissioner agreeable to open up a motion for, I guess you have choices. Should it be a denial? You could open up a motion for that. I do have some language for draft resolutions for you that I'm happy to share, and as a starting point, and the commission can look through those and see if those are points that are agreeable with you, or if you have other recommendations to help you move forward.
Okay.
I think it would just be a little direction from you as to which motion you'd like me to share.
Well, it seems, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, it seems like to explore the direction of a conditioned approval with conditions and perhaps reduction of a unit, maybe not, but that would be a direction we'd want to explore. Is that supported, that concept? Majority feel that that's a direction to start in?
It is for me, Ron.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too.
I would say so, Ron. This is Jim. Yeah.
Does anybody object to that then? All right, well, I think that it was probably appropriate if someone wanted to make a motion to approve. I'll get a second and then we'll discuss further and discuss conditions and see if we can reach a consensus that way.
Hey, Ron, do you mind if I make one more comment?
Not at all.
You sort of look at risk, right? What is the risk of the different avenues we can take here? And I guess, some of the concern I've got around, because I think reducing it to 5 units gives the residents some benefit in the surrounding area, some benefits in terms of the potential impact of snow or whatever. But I do think it does raise the risk level that the applicant would appeal. I certainly think going below 5, and not that I've done the math, but I've got to believe that they've taken a look at the profit margin pretty tight. I don't think that, I can't imagine that they would be amenable to going down to 4 units because, they're not doing this altruistically. They're doing it to make a profit. But I think on the, if we were to approve the 6 units, at the end of the day, in the plan of conservation and development, it does call for sewers in the downtown area. That would alleviate any issues or concerns about, septic issues. And that's really a Board of Selectmen responsibility to work that part of the plan of conservation and development. But I just feel that reducing the number of units might actually cause some risk, a higher level of risk of appeal. But that's just a thought.
Well, yeah, but Tom, if the commission were to reduce it, you mentioned the number 5, to reduce it to 5, they could appeal the 5 and say it needs.
Oh, yeah. But that's why I'm saying, maybe I wouldn't put that forward. Maybe I just approve the 6.
So
Gotcha.
Tom, I was sort of thinking through this as well. And the way I was thinking about it is that the original plan, maybe we can talk about this, what the modifications have been made already. How important are they, do we think, compared to the reduction by 1 unit? So I guess what I'm trying to say is the risk we take is that they get the original plan approved, which would be 6 units, and maybe not quite as pretty as we'd like them to be and have impervious walkway, but maybe the 5 units would be fine for them, and we would be able to get what we feel is a pretty significant win versus maybe more insignificant victory with the lesser conditions. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think through that.
It does to me. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Except that, let me just chime in and say that if we were to approve it as, again, just selecting the number 5, they could appeal that. But that only means it goes back to 6. All of the other conditions, this isn't a denial, it would be approval with 5 units. If they were unhappy with 5, they could, if they chose, appeal that. And maybe end with 6, but still all of the other conditions, unless they, it doesn't take that whole set of conditions out of play.
Oh, that's good. to
Oh,
know.
that makes sense.
Ron,
Yeah.
maybe it makes sense to have Aaron put up the draft language and then we can have discussion around the 5 versus 6, as well as Joel's suggestion of trying to true up the site plan versus the new regs that are proposed.
Mhm.
Excellent suggestion, Peter. Can we
And
do that?
before, Ron, before we do that, we're not gonna make 7, and I do have a worldwide Zoom thing I have to host. So I would suggest if you want, do you want to name somebody, bring an alternate on to replace me, or just have me not have one less?
Boy, now there is a good legal question. And I don't know the answer. I don't know whether there's a bad answer. I suspect, just as
You
if
still have if I jump off, you still have a quorum.
but
You have a quorum anyway.
my sense is would be the same as if, you didn't attend a previous meeting. You sit down, you saw the tape, you participated, you saw everything was going on. So my sense would be if you left, I would seat an alternate to replace you, because obviously they've been, or they have to attest to the fact they've been paying attention and watching this proceeding.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'll
Well,
do.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this, but I think our initial expectation was this would be wrapped up within an hour. And we moved it to 6, actually, for me, knowing I had a 7 o'clock. So
Well, your input has been very much helpful and appreciated. And
I'm sorry I can't vote.
we'll let you go, I'm sure. But thanks again. And I should also say, in light of what's developed today, Jim, do you have an announcement to make before you leave us?
Yes, I guess my announcement is this is my last meeting. I had resigned following this meeting. So anyway, it's been great working with everybody, and I'll be
You
watching
as well.
some of the discussions going forward. So thank you all. I loved working with you. You're all great. I respect every one of you. So good luck in this endeavor.
Thanks for your service, Jim.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tom.
Jim. We'll
Thank
miss
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Here's Jim.
Yeah.
And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I would like Carol, if she's been paying attention, and I know she has, to turn on her video. Hi, Carol.
I actually, I would prefer that Ron be seated. Ron Clark, if Ron Bodenson could be seated.
And okay, any particular reason?
Well, I think we have some legal questions here. I also feel that there are comments I would have appreciated making earlier, but was unable to. So if Ron Bodenson is willing to be seated, I would appreciate that.
Okay. And we'll ask if Ron would like to participate. Otherwise, we'll go with 8. Hi, Ron.
Hi, I
Thanks.
defer to Carol's request.
You should-
I'll be happy to sit in.
Block yourself out, Carol.
I-
Legal considerations. Turn off the video. Ron, your thoughts?
Well, I've got to say, I'm deeply impressed with Joel's analysis of this. I mean, others have
Wait a
done.
minute. Ron.
Yeah.
Willing to sit as an alternate.
Oh, yeah, I just said that. I'm sorry.
You were not seated at the last meeting.
I attended the entire meeting, though.
That's what I want to ask you. You attended the entire meeting, you watched it, and you've been part of all the proceedings. I just want to get that onto the record. All right. So with that, I think it's appropriate that since you've just been seated, that you share your thoughts.
But what I was saying is I was deeply impressed with Joel Miller's analysis here that while it seems like we have to approve or deny, and denial is a bottomless pit for us, I think his analysis tying in the issues he's raised should be incorporated into, very toughly incorporated into our conditions. And I'm not at all opposed to saying 5. I agree. If they don't like 5 and want to appeal, so be it. I think I assume we'd still be left with our prior conditions. And they'd come back to us a year and a half from now, having won an appeal for one more unit. But so let's be tough on the conditions. And again, the thoughtfulness of what the members have spoken of diving into this over the last week has been very impressive.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for your setting the stage, where you're coming from and your thoughts. Then I would go with Aaron. Can you want to share with us your resolution?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
So this is going to take some time for folks to read. Unless you want to run through it, Aaron, and help us.
I do think the commission should read the motion. Someone is welcome to read it as a proposed motion and open up the conversation for a second and further discussion.
Okay. I happen to be using my iPad, so there might be somebody that has a larger screen that would be willing to volunteer.
I
I know
can
one-
if you'd like. I'm sitting in front of a 40-inch monitor.
I was just going to say, you might be just the person to do it. Would you mind, Joe?
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
You want me to start at the facts and findings, or do you just want me to read the amendments?
Decision.
I think because sorry to say, I think because there are also members of the public who may be watching on their iPad, I think that unless Aaron has section, you read the document.
No, that's fine. Aaron, just know that you'll have to scroll down, it looks like, when I get to the bottom of the page. Because I don't think
Okay.
you have. All right, here we go. Facts and findings. The Planning and Zoning Commission has received the site plan application and coastal site plan application number 2123 CSP for 92 Scotland Avenue, map 39, lot 37, to redevelop a property within the R2 district under coastal site plan 830G, under Connecticut General Statute, 830G, and construct 6 detached single-family dwellings and associated site improvements. A public hearing commenced on December 2nd, 2021 via Zoom platform and was continued on December 16th, 2021, also via Zoom platform. At the second meeting, the commission closed the public hearing, having received no extension by the applicant, and began deliberations. Considering the application, supporting materials, and all documents and testimony entered into the record, the commission has found sufficient evidence to raise elements of concern relating to a substantial public impact, specifically traffic safety. The commission acknowledges the presence of the municipal Little League baseball fields adjacent to the south of the subject property. This intense seasonal use invites heavy usage by children, parents, and visitors. With this use, the on-site parking lot fills and traffic volume is increased on Scotland Avenue. Scotland Avenue is a two-way improved town road with approximately 24 feet of pavement within the right-of-way. There's a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit on the road with on-street parking and no sidewalks. The northern section of Scotland Avenue with Railroad Ave is a two-way stop, three-way traffic intersection. Scotland Avenue has historically been used as a shortcut link for traffic traveling from northern Horse Pond Road towards Boston Post Road. The addition of a 6-unit multifamily development in close proximity to the ball field parking lot and within 200 feet of the intersection at Railroad Ave creates a substantial traffic safety hazard. The applicant submitted a traffic letter by Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers LLC during the public hearing on December 16th, 2021. The commission finds this letter deficient in the following manners. Number one, the traffic evaluation was based on plan review and not site-specific data. The numbers provided in the report for trip generations was estimated using standard data and do not include factors unique to Scotland Avenue. Third, at no time were traffic volumes calculated for conditions on Scotland Avenue during peak season for the adjacent recreational use. And lastly, the analysis of safe vehicular ingress and egress did not include on-street parking as it relates to the adjacent use into consideration. The application proposes, 12 on-site parking spaces for the development. Each new residence will be a 3-bedroom dwelling. The parking for each individual unit can exceed the 2 on-site spaces provided. The parking for each individual unit can exceed 2 on-site spaces provided. Overflow parking will result in additional on-street hazards in an already narrow paved roadway. With no designated shoulder on Scotland Avenue, traveling vehicles would have to cross the solid line to avoid parked vehicles in front of the property. This type of driving maneuver creates a safety impact on the nearby northern intersection. Additionally, delivery vehicles would be limited with no turnaround space provided on site. This will result in vehicles either backing into Scotland Avenue or parking on the side road. The site design, The site design limits the ability for refuse collection at the proposed enclosure towards the rear of the property, resulting in the need for individual trash to be brought curbside for pickup. I think I flopped that. The site design limits the ability for refuse collection at the proposed enclosure towards the rear of the property, resulting in the need for individual trash to be brought to the curbside for pickup. This multitude of trash and recycling containers for 6 units along the curbside poses a safety concern along the edge of the property for passing vehicles and sight lines for residents. With respect to this housing appeals application, the Commission believes that modifications can be reasonably made to this application that can permit it to be granted. Of these modifications, a reduction in the number of dwelling units would provide the opportunity for the applicant to limit the number of structures and required parking spaces, thereby allowing for additional tenant and guest parking, as well as refuse collection and plowing accessibility on the site, resulting in the reduction of traffic safety impact on Scotland Avenue. It is further noted that traffic safety is a substantial public interest that the Commission has identified, and that by eliminating 1 market rate unit in the project, the number of affordable units will not change. With respect to the coastal site plan application, the Commission has reviewed Connecticut Deep comments that are included in the record and agrees with the suggestion for adequate sedimentation and erosion controls on site. The Commission believes that a stormwater maintenance plan will help ensure further adequate functionality of the system. So on to the next section, decision. The Madison Planning and Zoning Commission votes to modify and approve application number 2123 CSP 92 Scotland Avenue, map 39, lot 37, R2 district. Owner applicant 92 Scotland LLC, site plan review application for a proposed affordable housing development under CGS 830G to construct 6 residential dwelling units and associated site improvements, as shown on a set of plans entitled Site Plan Submission 92 Scotland Avenue, Proposed Affordable Housing Development, sheets 1 through 12 by Fetus Engineering LLC, dated revised to 12/9/21, sheet 6 of 12 revised to 12/15/21, and floor plans of 92 Scotland Avenue, sheets 1 through 2 by Fetus Engineering LLC, dated revised to 12/16/21, and associated supporting documents, including the affordability plan dated December 14th, 2021, and stormwater report dated revision December 9, 2021, with the following conditions. Condition number 1, that the number of dwelling units be reduced from 6 to 5 to limit the number of structures and allow for additional on-site parking and adequate maneuverability for refuse collection and snow removal. 2, that the applicant and town shall engage in good faith discussions to prohibit off-street parking for residents and guests. Number 3, that the applicant install a stop sign at the site driveway in advance of the crosswalk so that existing residents are appropriately directed to yield right of way to pedestrians and vehicular traffic along Scotland Avenue. 4, that all required clearing within the town right of way to ensure proper sightlines be coordinated with the town engineer and the tree warden. Number 5, understanding that all of these units will be rentals, the property owner shall restrict through the lease the number of vehicles allowed per unit to a maximum of 2. Number 6, that a subsurface sewage disposal system complies with both local and state health codes, and that all necessary local and/or state permits are obtained. Number 7, you want to scoot that up? That as the ADA parking space is not required per code, this space be redesignated and striped as 2 parking spaces for use by tenants or guests of the property. Number 8, that all pervious and stone dust walkways be replaced with solid surface walkways in an effort to improve durability and walkability for the residents. And number 9, that the suggestion of the advisory committee for the community appearance, that would be ACA, the applicant utilize a professional landscape firm to design and submit a comprehensive landscape plan for the portion of the site fronting on Scotland Avenue. This plan shall be submitted to the zoning enforcement officer prior to the issuance of a preliminary certificate of zoning compliance. Number 10, that the site lighting plan be modified to include additional bollards along the parking area and walkway to sufficiently light the common areas for residents and guests of the development. The bollards shall be modified to hardwired or dark sky friendly with a maximum color temperature between 3,500 and 4,000 Kelvins. Number 11, that per ACA suggestion, unit pairs 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 have a hardy board siding, have the hardy board siding be different shades of light, of different shades of a light color for each pair. Number 12, that per APA suggestion, the AZAC corner boards and trim be sized to be in proportion with the scale of the building. Number 13, that a stormwater maintenance plan be submitted to the zoning enforcement officer for review and approval prior to the issuance of a preliminary certificate of zoning compliance. Number 14, that all roof leaders for each unit connect to the stormwater infiltration system. Number 15, that all sediment and erosion controls be installed prior to any site disturbance and be maintained for the duration of construction activities and until the site is sufficiently stabilized per zoning enforcement officer. The commission finds this application consistent with the coastal use and resource policies of the state of Connecticut. The effective date of this approval shall be December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Joe. I think I picked up on one thing, Aaron, and Joe, you've got the big screen. Number 11, Unit 6.
So unit number 11 reads that per ACA suggestion, comma, unit pairs 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 have the hardy board siding be different shades of light color for each pair.
It includes there's a typo there, and I want to get a second to this anyway, but I just picked up on that before I forgot. So that as we go forward, it would be, we can work to modify, but it's kind of circle that would need to be corrected because of this approval as it stands, there's only 5 units.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
And I would second this.
Okay, and that's a second from
Tom Burl.
Tom, okay.
Ron, another issue.
Yes,
On item 5, are these all going to be rentals? I thought some might be for sale. If I'm looking at 5.
Yeah, I picked up on that too as I was reading it. Understanding that these units will be rentals. Oh, it doesn't say all rentals. It just says,
no, it's clear on the record that from what the applicant has said, that the decision has been made, they will not be sold as condominiums, but as rental
Oh,
units.
okay.
They will be. Okay, that change. Okay. Fair enough.
And how do we work in Joel's suggestion in terms of aligning the site plan coverage with the zone coverage?
Aaron, would that be another condition added? How do you want to rectify that?
Yes, the commission, as part of your discussion here, you could request to modify this draft proposal to include another condition. I think, how many do we have here? I guess a number 16. I am paraphrasing here that, but upon elimination of one dwelling unit, the applicant shall modify the bulk standards or the proposed bulk standards to reflect the removal of that dwelling unit with respect to lot coverage.
But I think also, Aaron, Joel's comment was there is an alignment issue between that the zone change would allow a greater coverage.
Yes.
Than this. I think to Joel's point, they need to be aligned exactly so that they're not coming back and saying, well, it's actually the units are going to be a little bit bigger, the coverage is going to be a little greater because the zone allows it.
That's correct, Tom. I apologize. Yes, the
So I think maybe I'll throw you the lifeline here, Aaron. I think maybe the way we structure that is that it's proportionately adjusted based on the coverage shown in the table on chart 4 on the site plan, right? So that shows the 37 some odd hundred square feet of coverage, for the 6 units, and you adjust downward based on that number, so we don't have to actually crunch the math now, but it's not tied to the 4,000 that's in the reg. So the reg would adjust to the 37, I think it's 3794, 3764.
64.
That's in the site plan. I think the other important things to hit would be everywhere where it talks about the lot size, minimum lot size should be the size of this lot, right? So it's 20,000 in the bulk standards. This lot is almost 22,000. It's 21,994,996, something like that. So just it should be the size of this lot because this zone change is specifically for this lot, right? So no need to have it for parameters that not tied to this lot. Let me see where else. Lot size, buildable area as well, right? So the buildable area shown on the site plan is the full size of the lot. It's less than that in the bulk standards. It's also 20,000 square feet. So those things should just align with, chart 4 is the road. The table on chart 4 is kind of the Rosetta Stone for where we should do all the alignments.
Is that clear? Joel, this type of analysis I've seen before from you, but unfortunately, it was many years ago when I was young and we were developing cell towers. Remember those days? We crossed paths many, many years ago.
Are you still on the siting council, Ron?
Oh, no, I appeared before the siting council literally hundreds of times,
Oh, I thought you were on the siting council.
No, I know it well, but no, I never sat on it, no. Aaron, are you up to speed? Or you need a little catch-up time? With what?
Yes, or is the commission looking for me to read that back to you, the wording of that condition? Or would you like to go with Joel's language?
Well, if you need any help getting it restated, I hope we could count on Marlene to read it back to us if she can, if we need to. Although I don't know, quite frankly, how she records all this stuff. Maybe in the middle of some type of transcription device that it's not easy to read back from.
I don't have a. I have an echo.
That suggestion. Okay, so Aaron, do you want to read it back?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, the applicant, that's number 15, I think I said, 16, excuse me. The applicant shall modify the bulk standards to reflect, the proposed bulk standards to reflect the removal of the 6th dwelling unit and reconcile any differences in the standards between the site plan and the proposed zoning regulations. This shall include the actual lot size to be the minimum lot area, as well as a recalculation of lot coverage. Does that sound accurate?
Yep.
Works for you, Joel?
Yep, it does, and I should say out loud before we go much further, I'm not comfortable putting more than 4 buildings on this site. I might be the only one, but I just want to say that out loud. So if we come down to 5, I'm probably not changing my original opinion from last week.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Aaron, could you send me the wording, email me the wording? Thanks. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the table, a second, and I'll ask again, is there any further discussion? Otherwise, I think it's time we call the vote. So all in favor, and I believe that we also have coastal site plan and those things to work into it, but
I think that was in the wording already of what I read back.
I think it was, but I'm just.
It was.
So with that, I will call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Aye.
Joel. Okay. Thank you. And thank everyone. This has been a very difficult application, and I don't think any of us are completely thrilled with the results, but that's what 830G does. And I think we do have the satisfaction of knowing we've added some affordable housing in town, which is a good thing. And we were faced with challenges, and I think you did a good job in dealing with them. I really do. So with that, before we adjourn, I wanted to ask Tom Berland. Tom, you have an announcement to make?
I do, Ron. This will be my last meeting as well. I've resigned as of December 31st, and it's been my pleasure to work with all of you. It's been a great experience. I've been on the commission for a number of years now, and it really has been a great opportunity to serve our community and to work with really, really talented, thoughtful people. And I appreciate all of the time and thought that each of you put into each one of the deliberations. So thanks for a great experience, and I really appreciate the time on the board or on the commission.
It was great working with you.
Yes, Tom, commission will miss you. And your contributions are many over the years and very much appreciated by me and everyone else. And as long as we're on the subject of announcements,
Yeah, Ron, can I steal the show for a minute, Ron?
You sure can. Oh, that's right. You want to make one too.
I do. It's not really by choice, but I was not invited to be reappointed to the board. I started volunteering for this town many years ago when I was in high school, volunteering for Madison Youth and Family Services. I've lived in this town and put 4 kids through the school system in this town. It's always been my pleasure to volunteer for this town. I guess I started somewhere around 12 or 13 years ago on economic development and then moved over to planning and zoning for the past 10 or so. Recently ran to be a member of the Board of Selectmen. That was unsuccessful, and my seat was not reappointed. So it has been my pleasure for anybody in the town listening to volunteer for the town. I hope to be able to continue doing that in some capacity in the future, but you guys will not be seeing my faces on this board in the future, and it's been my pleasure to work with every one of you.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
So I'll just say what Joe said. I'm in a similar circumstance. I was not reappointed last night. And I cannot begin to tell you how appreciative I am of having the opportunity to serve, not only on the commission, but for the past few years as chairman. I recognize and appreciate all you commissioners contribute and do and try and do our best within all the constraints and regulations and things that we must deal with. It's a complicated business. But I also recognize and appreciate all the help I've gotten from Town Hall, Dave Anderson, certainly, now Aaron, who's doing a great job, Maria Pertola, who saves my butt week in and week out with agenda help and information. So I feel a little bit of relief because I know what lies ahead, but by the same token, I'll miss it. And most of all, I'll miss working with you folks. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I thank you all. So,
Thank you, Ron.
You've done a
Thank you,
phenomenal job.
Thanks, Ron. Great leadership. We really appreciate it. And Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
absolutely.
Thank you, Tom, too.
So with that, maybe I will leave the honor of making the motion to adjourn to Elliot on his birthday so we can get out sooner.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we have a unanimous.
Aye.
Hi.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays all.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye-bye.
They will.